Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 2 Point Conversion Monday Night Football pregame show. This is week 9. Almost thought it was week 10 for a sec. We're not at week 10 yet. That's coming. We're still in week 9. And I'm still Kyle Senra. Still Senra Says. Still talking, as always. And as always, joined by my co-hosts. Gladys, how are you doing?
I'm here. I'm slight under the weather, but nothing really major. Just a little bit. And I have my, hydrogenated water. So we're good. We're good.
Under the weather, perhaps, but appreciate you for soldiering on and joining us here. But
Dude, I do nothing. It's like I'm sitting here. Okay, it's not like I'm heavy lifting or anything. Kyle, you're doing all that.
Gladys, you are the glue that holds this show together and keeps it from going completely insane off the rails every week.
Gladys glue. And, might be under the weather, but over top on the video of Discord Dan, Delightful Dan, the promo pimp himself. That's the B-League says, how you doing, Dan?
You nearly missed it. I know what you were about to say there for a second. You nearly missed it. I am very good, my friend. The Giants didn't lose this weekend and couldn't be happier. It was once again another good week for the Giants.
Yeah.
But for
you did better than half the teams.
That's it. Yeah, us and 6 others. But look, had a good week on the props with Underdog. Promo code GF2, 100% matching deposit up to $100. But we did pretty good on the props this week on Underdog. I'm really happy considering there was no show, but I put that out on Discord, which you should go to goingfor2.com server and check that out. I put that in the prop bet section there and went 10 for 14. I was pretty happy because that could have gone. There was a couple that were close, like Derek Carr was close and Jacobs was close, but could have had a very big week in that, but pretty happy nonetheless. It was a good week. Good football, some good games as well. I don't know if you guys caught that on. We've had a few weird weeks of some games that have just been absolute atrocious this week. Some entertaining stuff. It was great to watch this week. Pretty happy. So unless you're a Packers fan, I'm just catching the highlights now.
I mean, there was some good football this week. There's also ultimate depressing football for Kyle over here. I appear alive, but I have no soul anymore.
Do you know it's a fact that every time the Packers got down to the 5-yard line, if they had just taken a kneel and let Crosby kick for field goals, they still would have lost.
Wow. Hi, Doc. How are you?
Oh man. Well, I'm doing well. I'm back from halfway around the world, but I did get to catch some of Discord Dan's Friday show, which for me was like, I don't know, Saturday night or something. And I saw a little bit of Gladys hosting the Sunday morning show.
She did,
which was fun.
Dan is correct.
Again.
If you say it often enough, that
was pretty great. But it's good to be back. And we were talking about a little bit before the show. I was in the Maldives, which is in the Indian Ocean. It's halfway around the world, and it's a 10-hour time difference. So for a week and a half, I was even more insane with getting up at weird times to set waivers and set lineups and make sure that this guy was playing and that guy wasn't playing. And it was pretty intense. So the fact that I was able to not like have an open spot in any of my lineups and not like totally like piss off my wife because I was like doing fantasy football while she was like doing other stuff, getting ready. I'm like, okay, I got like 10 minutes. Like, what time is it back home? Oh, it's 2:00 in the morning. I don't have to worry about it. And then there were other times where it's like, oh no, what time is it? Oh, the game's going to kick off in like 10 minutes. I got to make sure this guy's playing and make sure he's in the lineup, and got it all done. So
I'd have just taken L's that week, mate. In the Maldives, I'd have just taken L's. I wouldn't have looked back. I wouldn't have even been looking at
too far. We're too far in it now. Where this is it. We're getting close to crunch time. We're coming down the stretch. We got a lot of time and energy invested in these teams. This is not the time to pack it in.
Well,
so dedicated Doc.
You're a better person than I am. I wouldn't have turned the phone on for
you
like
said
2
it,
weeks.
not me.
Yeah. This is why you're a doctor. No, he applied himself.
We're glad you're back, Doc. We missed you.
Well, yeah,
it's
exactly.
good to have you back.
We're glad you're back. Seems like the listeners, viewers are glad. Gator's here mentioning exactly that. Gator also wants to know what the Giants' record is, Dan.
Undefeated, my friend.
Under 5 weeks.
It does relate to this question. Is Rodgers going to retire midweek? It's funny because this does seem like it's going to be his last season, if nothing else for this, how his career is kind of arced.
Rodgers is already retired. He's
Well,
already
yeah,
retired.
that's
I
true.
mean,
He's quiet quit on the
yeah,
Packers.
he's like he has
But
chopped
although
wood.
but he's still not staying quiet. He's like me. He just talks so
I've
much.
I have been saying as long as I have fibers in my body, he is going to tamper once Brady retires with a fully decked offense that's ready to go.
Once Brady retires in 2029.
No,
I
he's
know,
done.
right?
He's done after this year. He's cooked. They ain't even going to bring him back. But Rodgers,
Oh my God.
you give me you give me Rodgers with Godwin and Evans and Otten and Fournette. You don't think Rodgers would go there? I've been saying it since every year that Rodgers hasn't extended his contract. You notice the trend. Brady extends, Rodgers extends. Brady extends, Rodgers extends. I've been saying it for the last 2 years that ever since Brady went there, I feel like Rodgers would take the pay cut because he's milking the Packers for everything they got. He's going to Tampa and he's just going to laugh in the NFC South.
You know what I think? Can they trade Rodgers for Brady? Because I think at this point I would rather have Brady on the Packers than Rodgers. So
you would rather have anybody on the Packers than Rodgers. I'm telling you.
I'm glad Jordan Love's not starting. I think that would be worse.
Oh, would it? Could it? It can't. There's no way.
Well, to be fair, Gladys, good point. So Packers have lost 5 straight, starting with Dan's Giants. So that's funny how the Giants destroyed the Packers. So good job.
We sure did. Absolutely ruined them.
Wait till Low Steam Mix hears about this.
True. Yeah. Oh my God, Doc! It's frozen.
He's back in the Maldives.
Doc,
he's back in the Maldives.
Oh no!
And he's back.
Wow. Yeah.
You're right. He does think Rodgers is better than Brady. So yeah, he's not going to like that. I'll bring that up on Speak on It tomorrow. Joining live or from in the live comments, like everyone else here, joining the live chats. Which, if you want to do so, you can do so on goingfor2.com live or sorry YouTube, and then search Going for Two live on YouTube. You can find our YouTube page there. We're also on Twitch and Facebook. You can see the videos on Twitter, but we cannot see your comments. So. Glad to see everyone here. Apparently the big boss Jeff's here mentioning the crew is back. Yeti's watching us go. And I guess Yeti already has a question. So we'll start here, Doc, with we always talk injuries, of course, every game. We do have a doctor here, Dr. James Ferretti, author of the great book, Fantasy Suck. Or no, it doesn't. Fantasy's awesome. Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. And this book definitely doesn't suck either. This book's amazing. So
it's like he's got access to the show sheet. It's wild.
We got there.
Well, and it's funny. Gladys mentioned heavy lifting, but Dan did all the promos at the start, so he's doing the heavy lifting. But now, Doc, we give it on to you. You're back, and we're giving you the heavy workload right away, like Jonathan Taylor usually. Sorry, I lost that comment.
Yeah, it was a question. Does JT get shut down for the rest of the season?
No,
and
Saturday.
Before we even, I know, right? Before we even jump into that, one of the amazing things about like packing and going on vacation, it's like the stuff that you find. So while I was like I haven't been on a trip in like since pre-COVID, right? So I'm going through my stuff and look at this gem that I pulled out from the nether regions. Like I haven't seen one of these things in like, I don't know, 10 years. Anyway, so speaking of unceremonious transitions, Frank Reich, you're fired. Didn't we talk about this a couple weeks ago? Where it's like if you point your finger at everybody else, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you, and maybe Frank Reich is the problem. Well, it turns out that Jim Irsay maybe agrees a little bit. So this has some effect on JT as well. Like, what do you guys think about like Jeff Saturday coming in, super popular guy as far as the Colts are concerned, but forget about the injuries. Like, do you think that this is going to affect like JT's usage, even if he was healthy? I think that's the first question. And then we can get to the injury part of it, which I can definitely speak on.
You see,
so Dan Orlovsky,
yeah.
whatever his name is. I don't know. I don't like him, but
I don't like him.
No one does.
I know.
He wasn't good as a quarterback. He's not good as a sports reporter. So I don't know why he has a job because he's not good at anything.
That's called failing upwards. It happens a lot to white males in the United States.
I call it quarterback privilege. If you played quarterback in the NFL, you can get any job you want, even if you're not good at it at all.
Get all the white males. Get them.
So anyway, he was saying that he didn't think Saturday would take the job unless he had like some kind of insurance that if they did well, he would get it full time. I think that Saturday is going to run the shit out of JT. if he is healthy, because that is his only path to winning. Unless you and taking Ellinger out of there, I don't even know why he was quarterbacking if Matt Ryan's okay. But I think JT
What's
is
wrong
not
with
going to
Nick
be shut
Foles?
down. What?
Nick Foles. I don't understand. Nick Foles is probably the best quarterback on that team. I don't understand why he doesn't get a shot. He can actually win a Super Bowl,
now.
unlike Matt Ryan.
He might now. I mean,
I agree with you, Gladys, and I don't even know about the insurance thing, like of he needs to win games, because honestly, you win games, you get jobs, right? So he's got this opportunity. The only way he's gonna be able to be a coach anywhere after this is if he wins games. If he goes out and loses every game, no one's ever gonna hire him again. So if I think his job's on the line, just like every coach in the NFL. So yeah, I'd agree with you. Dan, go ahead. Sorry.
The wonderful Amy Trask put it out there, and she said maybe he's looking at this job for a potential move as the GM if something was to happen to Chris Ballard, which would make sense. He gets a feel for the players and he gets into the front office and he can control whatever he can after that, because he's not a coach. Let's face it. Like, he's not. He has zero pedigree in that regard. But
isn't he coaching some like private
high school team high school team out in like Pennsylvania, Dracula or something? I don't know. But it's like, this could be a way for him to move into the front office for a organization he knows very well. He's beloved. He's Ring of Honor, all that sort of stuff. So that could be a way for him to move into a position like that with Ballard, because let's face it, if half the blame is on Ballard, half is on Reich the other way, right? So, that could be something to look for as well. So maybe he's just doing that now in prep for that, if that's something that Irsay is going to look at as well. Because let's face it, Ballard, I like Ballard. I think he's made some great picks, great drafts. I thought Reich was a great hire as well, but they just haven't nailed this quarterback position since Luck left, and they haven't held. We spoke about it last week. Their offensive line has kept 0 quarterbacks healthy, not just Luck. So this is where they're at. And if anybody knows this, how to protect the quarterbacks, probably Jeff Saturday, right? So, yeah, he knows a little bit about that. So that could be something to look at the end of the season. But for now, and the funny thing is that the AFC South is still up for grabs. If you believe in the Titans, what, 0 receptions from 0 targets for a receiver last night? Zero targets to a wide receiver last night, or a reception to a receiver, like something stupid. Like, they can only go so far doing what they're doing. That division's still up for grabs. Jacksonville's still a chance for what it's worth. Like, they beat the Raiders, right? They're 3-5, 3-6.
The Texans have the worst record in the NFL. They still have a chance.
Like, they still have a chance. That division's up for grabs. So they're like, make a move like this. Like, even when they went to Ellinger, like, I still went there. Like, Foles can win you games. We know this. Reich has won games with Foles. This is so silly. That division's up for grabs. And you've made like a complete leap off a cliff for a reason that no one really knows. There's got to be something more behind it. Because this is kind of outrageous. Why would you go to Ellinger for this? This is silly. They were winnable games against winnable teams. Foles could have got the job done with half the players around. We've seen him do it before.
See, I always thought that going to Ellinger was a Irsay decision. I couldn't see.
It seemed like it too, but like as soon as that becomes an Irsay decision, Reich's cooked.
Well, is that why? Is that Reich kind of went along with it? Okay, I'll give him 2 games. Then he kind of put his stamp on. No, I want to go to Foles, and Irsay said no, and it's I'm out of here then.
That feels like there's more behind it, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it soon enough. Because this is just a bad move in general. Because Foles, we saw last year, he went to Chicago, he wins a game. We can't do that. And he got hooked. Like, that's it. He could have won enough games with Pittman, Campbell, Taylor, Hines. Even why would you sack a coach after you've made trades? Like, it's just one of those weird things. Like, if this is in his team and you're making trades for a coach that you don't have, it's kind of weird.
Well, and I think very short-sighted because they just fired their offensive coordinator last week. It seems like if you knew you were going to fire Reich, why fire the OC? You'd at least want some continuity. So this whole mess seems kind of like a mess. So all to say, Doc, I think
our problem is we think that Irsay's doing this sober. We all know that's not happening.
I didn't want to say he's on the source, but that was my next statement.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and you said it like you were doing your Irsay impression. Right? Just don't drink and drive, folks. Please don't do that. But so, Doc, all to answer, I think what you're saying, we don't think the coaching change affects Taylor. This is purely health. So back to your department. What's your gut on it? Does Taylor get shut down this season?
So the short answer is maybe, But here's a better answer. So it looks like his ankle injury, he missed 2 weeks with it the first time around, came back. He hasn't really been the Jonathan Taylor that everybody expected all year anyway. So he re-aggravates his injury in week 8. He misses week 9. And again, he missed 2 weeks last time. Is it reasonable to expect that he could miss that or more? It's certainly possible. But even if he comes back, the whole idea of Jonathan Taylor is, the volume, it was the main thing coming into the year, the health that he didn't have any health issues like dating back to like high school. And I think this really underscores, kind of something that gets played up in draft season and the preseason, where it's this illusion of somebody is healthy or they're safer because they've never been injured before. And it's just a fallacy. Like, there are players in the NFL that are more injury prone, like they're, recidivist injury issues. Somebody like Julio Jones in the last couple of years, Michael Thomas now, players that they have had injuries and therefore they're at a higher risk for injuries. But the idea that just because somebody hasn't been injured before, it's an inherently risky activity. So it's kind of like saying, we're going to use the drinking analogy again. It's like, I'd rather drive home with this drunk driver behind the wheel because he's never been in an accident before. It's like that logic just kind of falls apart when you think about, like, it's not safe to be behind the wheel with a drunk driver.
He's the best drunk
It's
driver.
not that safe to
Whether
play
he's had an
football.
accident or not. So this idea that a running back is safe because he's never been injured before, it just doesn't really work. So just something to carry forward that doesn't really have anything to do with it right now. Even when he comes back, I still think they're going to work in Zach Moss potentially. I think that, Deion Jackson has shown that he could maybe be like the, Nyheim Hines, 2.0 in this offense. And what's the offense even going to look like? So there's a lot of questions here. So what does it all mean? It means is that if you have somebody in your league who still values Jonathan Taylor on the name value and you can get something back from that and you're in a position to move on, I think it's worth pursuing, just because he's a lot more risky now than he was, even when he just first injured his ankle 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, there's a lot more variables in play, and any one of them can undo his season, injury or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And then it does actually transition us nicely to another question. I think Dan put this in. So sorry, I guess the other thing would be, if you're trying to sell away Taylor, would you be more inclined to buy like a DeAndre Swift who's also injured? Like, is there one between the two that you think is more like, again, not to say which drunk driver you want to drive with, because none of us have gone drunk driving with you, Brian. I don't think we ever want to. No. I think we can drive away from those analogies now. But
hey, Brian, you're not scaring me with a good time there,
But yeah, so DeAndre Swift, do you think that's a more scary situation, less scary? How would you compare the two?
I think it's more scary in the sense that, so let's just do a short recap of what happened. So he injured his shoulder. He was supposed to be back after the week 6 bye. That would have been week 7. It's week 9 now. And he was out in week 7. He had 10 touches in week 8. He had 5 touches in week 9. Now, maybe some of that was game script, but the good news is with him, at least he's giving some people in PPR leagues a little bit of something because he's still involved in the receiving game. But I'm starting to worry that this could hamper him all year. We've been worried about this for a while as far as his shoulder. Maybe this is all you're going to get. He has become like this high-end Nyheim Hines scat back type back. But here's the issue. Detroit's 2-6. They could opt. They know that he's the future of their team, and they know that the future is not now. So they could opt to shut him down at any time. And that's not what playoff teams going into the stretch run and the playoffs want to deal with, weeks 13, 14. It's like, okay, now Detroit is what? They're 3-10 and they're completely buried. And they're like, hey, you know what? DeAndre Swift, let's just shut him down at this point. And we'll let Jamal Williams do his thing. Maybe even we'll give Justin Jackson some more carries. We've seen him be able to carry it for short periods in the past. So I'm not really excited about either one of them. And I think there's multiple ways that they could either get re-injured and miss time, or some external mitigating circumstance could come into play and they could affect them. So I think in redraft, it's worth it to potentially move off of both of them if possible. And I'm not really one to say that unless I have, good reason. But like I said, there's multiple pathways for both of these guys to leave you with empty pockets down the stretch or in the playoffs. And that's not what I want for you if you're a potential playoff team, and that's not what you want for yourselves, I'm sure.
So good reason to move off merely means good players. So what kind of players would, and this is open to anyone, Gladys, Dan, who would we target if you're trying to move off of Taylor or Swift?
This is a Gladys question. I'm out of this.
Oh, because it's
Designated
redraft?
in the show sheet. So this is up to you, Gladys.
No, I'm putting the show sheet. I'm teeing you up.
Yeah.
You
It
come
was in
and
yellow.
say,
It's official. It's bold as well, too.
You've come and
Okay.
said I've got nothing
So,
here. I'm like, I teed everything
A,
up for it tonight.
why do you assume I read the show sheet? And B, that's like a crazy thing. If I have Tyler and I have Swift actually in the same league, I'm holding on to both of them. I mean, I know what Doc says. I personally think that Taylor is more valuable because I think that Saturday wants to win, so they're going to run him, and they're going to get a better quarterback in that offense. Swift, I would try. I have tried to get. I paired him with Jimmy G and a wide receiver, and I tried to get Mixon before he had the crazy
Wow.
week
Yeah.
9.
No, you don't.
But but now that he's had that crazy week 9, I'm pretty
Mm.
sure I'm not going to be able to get Mixon. They were trying to give me Kamara for him, but now with the video out, I don't know how long Kamara's going to be playing. So
that almost seems like a risky proposition, like an injury player where
Yeah.
could miss
we don't
time.
know
Same deal.
if he's going to.
Multiple pathways to potentially
Multiple-
getting.
Can I
to not
make a
play?
suggestion?
Please do.
Miles Sanders, someone who the community doesn't love, but he's produced like top 12, top 10 numbers. I think he's the RB6 or 7 this year. And that's a team that just loves to run the football. There's always going to be high touchdown chance, and he's,
Right.
He's not a zero in the passing game either. So Swift to Sanders might be something and Sanders has already passed his bye week, especially in redraft. I love looking at that. Players at this point that are past their bye week, so I'm not buying into a bye week. So he's kind of one of the names I could think of that isn't as highly valued, but is in still that top 6, because you're not going to get like Barkley or Chubb or Eckler or McCaffrey off anyone, but you might be able to get Sanders.
Sanders is a good call. I'm looking at guys who are on the precipice of that are going to have to play until week 17, week 18 because their team is still contending, right? So for me, I'd be looking at someone you could get more back for if you were to move Jonathan Taylor. Not a popular pick, but it's redraft, so what does it matter? It's not your problem in a year's time. I'd be looking at someone like Cordarrelle Patterson, someone who
I have seen that.
Yeah, like something
I
like
already have
that.
Good
Yeah,
Well,
right.
no, I drafted him and I
Or
never
a good
dropped
draft.
him.
Yeah, he would have been drafted.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at these guys that are just on teams that are going to be fighting. Like Fournette's a guy that people are probably wanting to get off.
Yeah.
If that makes sense? So yeah,
Fournette is a good call.
I mean, with
Rashawn White's eating into his work, so people
Yeah, I
view him
mean,
as down.
I'd be
Good
trying
point,
to
Dan.
look at guys that are trying that like, look, Falcons are what? Falcons, Bucks, they're 4-5 and tied for the top of the division. Panthers are still in it to within a degree. So I'd be looking at trying to, if I'm going to get rid of one of these premium running backs, I'd be trying to get back something else with it. So if I know I'm going to get rid of him for, say, Cordarrelle Patterson, I'd want maybe a receiver or a tight end on top. Because, you never know what happens with Taylor. That's your whole selling point. Listen, if he comes back, he's 30 points a game, give it, right? But if you can get Patterson in there who can get you 15 on a good week and a receiver on top, you could get something else on top. I'd probably try and lean that way instead of trying to go lateral to an equally as good running back where the risk, that guy gets injured and you're still left with nothing. That for me, that's what I'd say. I don't play a lot of redraft though, so that's why I geared this question towards Gladys.
Like I said, I love and appreciate Doc. I'm not getting rid of JT. He was the first pick in the first round. He was my first pick.
I
It's
get
a
it.
problem, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
Swift, I
Huge
will
problem.
gladly get rid of, but I mean, if Dan Campbell stops talking, I could probably have a better chance of getting rid of him. But as long as Dan Campbell keeps saying, "Oh, we're only going to use him part-time because we're not sure when he's going to be back," it lowers his value every time Campbell opens his mouth. So,
yeah. Well, one other thing that you could try to pivot to is if you go from running back to, like Dan was saying, you go to wide receiver, right? But then you get somebody thrown in that could have value if somebody gets injured, like Rashad White. Like Rashad White, if Fournette gets injured, so like let's say the wide receiver is kind of even, and you're like, oh, just give me this guy who's not worth that much right now.
Can you get a Chris Olave? Perhaps?
Can you get somebody like that, and then you get Rashad White on top? Then something happens to Fournette. Now you've kind of made up that production, and you really got something. So I don't know. Just
a team on the
trades are tough.
A team on the precipice. A team on the brink of a playoff. Michael Carter, like that's a guy I'd look at, like Michael Carter plus.
Yeah, Michael Carter.
Carter,
Well,
the Jets are what,
something happens to James Robinson hasn't been great.
He was a scratch this week as well, right? So like Carter and like at least you know PPR value. You got that with Carter. That's going to happen, and you could get something else back with.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that you could get a piece like that could fit in, like if you're telling me that someone had Carter and I don't know, got it. Maybe it'll take more, but like for Jonathan Taylor, maybe not. You tell me you can get a top 4 tight end rest of the way with Michael Carter, who could be an RB2 every other week. I'd look at it. Depending on how the rest of your team is filled out, of course.
And I agree with Gator. White is getting 40% snap share now. He's not
going away. He's not going away.
He's not an afterthought in that.
Nor should he. You know, he's a valuable part of that offense, and he's going to be even more valuable.
Valuable part of that offense, putting up 13 points a game.
So Gator mentioned Zeke, but Zeke is dealing with an injury right now. Could I also propose Tony Pollard? Maybe someone's afraid. Okay, Pollard's good now, but afraid of if Zeke returns, he returns to being a backup. Is that something we could pivot off Swift for?
I can't get rid of Pollard.
Definitely a thought, because they even talked about they were going to cap his snaps at 30 snaps or something like that, which is fine. But somebody reads that, and that seems like a negative, but it hasn't. They've been doing that anyway. So it's like he's been producing despite that. And if Zeke really goes, if he misses or he really goes down with this, grade 2, remember the paper with the tearing? That's what he's got in the MCL. He's got a partial tear of his knee ligament. And I mean, I know he's Superman, but he already missed time, and Zeke's hopefully he's going to be back after the bye. It may not happen. So Pollard could get a few more weeks of run here, and Zeke could easily get re-injured.
Doc, what do you think about DK Metcalf coming back?
I think that's amazing. I mean, I whiffed on that one big time. I got to own that one. Holy crap.
Or the injury just not as severe as we thought.
Yeah.
It just wasn't as...
Because there's
you had to go to the Maldives. You had to go on your honeymoon. You had to go to the Maldives. You had to do all these things.
Dan. You've frozen Doc.
I'm buying in time. Till he comes back. Is he unfrozen?
He's unfrozen.
You had to go to the Maldives. What are you doing?
I mean, could it be that the injury wasn't what they said it was? Because there's no way he tore his kneecap, and it's played like that.
Partial tear. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right. Yeah, partial tear. So, or grade 1, grade 2 injury. You completely tear your patellar tendon, you're done. So it wasn't that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Grade 2. It's a grade 2. It's a high grade 2. But yeah,
it's a check.
Hope it wasn't too much money.
It's amazing that he's been able to play and he hasn't missed any time, and he's been productive. Right? I'm astounded by that. But he's getting to a level now where I have to put him as like he's superhuman. Like obviously he's a physical specimen, but I mean that's amazing that he can play through that. That's amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, this is funny, Brian. If he's got there's one reason to take a card. He took the number 2 reason to take a card, and then but he tears a patellar tendon. I'll be fine. Yeah,
let's just face it. This guy's running
routes. But
he's a machine. He's an athletic beast, but he just will not walk off the field.
Yeah,
won't do it.
Well, he doesn't want to waste his patellar tendon walking away from the field. If he's going to do something, it's going to be on the field. But we'll wrap up the JT conversation here. Doc, is this going to affect him next year?
I don't think so. I think it's just a question of what kind of a dumpster fire is Indy going to be for the rest of the year, and is he able to? Because remember, when JT first injured his ankle, they were very cagey about what kind of injury it was. Did he even have an injury? And there was this thing. I put something out about how they weren't being upfront with us about what the injury was, and they said I was fear mongering, and I was like. He's going to miss the game. Like, obviously he's injured. Like, that's not fear mongering. Like, he's injured. Like, and we don't know how bad. Like, I'm speaking facts. So, he missed a couple of weeks and then he came back, he re-injured it. Like, it's not all the way healed. And now he had a setback. So, all bets are off as far as how bad this is now. And they realize that he is the future and he's the workhorse and he makes that offense go. If they fall out of it and, let's say the Colts faceplant from here on forward and they just keep losing games like this, they may shut them down, but I don't think it's going to affect them next year or anything like that. I think it's just, big picture type stuff. That's what we need to worry about for people in redraft. If you're in Dynasty, I don't think this really affects you. DeAndre Swift, I mean, there's probably going to be a lot more. We're not going to sort it all out today, but there's going to be more discussion to be had is he going to be able to withstand a full workload like we had all hoped? And is he ever going to reach that potential that he has? That's, for a later date to discuss. But as far as the injuries limiting them going forward, I don't think that's really an issue.
The offense worries you more than health.
It just worries me for this year. Like, the external factors and the health worry me for this year, but I'm not concerned about anything for next year and going forward. There's going to maybe other factors that come into play, but not health.
Well, yeah, I would say they need to fix that offense. To me, the offense is dragging him down because he was not producing well before the injury. So to me, the offense itself is the bigger concern than the injuries.
Yeah, for
both
JT,
short-term and long-term.
That's the issue. And then for Swift, the issue is he ever going to reach that pinnacle of him being a feature back, or is he just not going to be able to stand up to that? And we don't know the answer to that. And we may not know until next year at the earliest.
All right. So, trade from Fendith, if I'm saying that correctly. Do I accept this trade? So full PPR, they would get Mike Evans and Paris Campbell by giving up Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster. I would say this looks like the classic, if you're ordering the players, you're getting 1-4, you're giving up 2-3, right? Like Mike Evans, I think we'd all say is the clear best piece here from a redraft perspective.
It's pretty close.
Okay, so then never mind. So then I think if it's not so obvious that Mike Evans is the best piece, I'm sure you're saying get not to do this trade. Keep Deontay and Juju if you not think you're getting that much of an upgrade.
Well, you know what I would say. If after
it's
10
not
seconds,
a sure
it's not
yes,
a hell
it's a
yes,
no.
it's a no, and it definitely is not a hell yes. So, and the reason being real quick is Paris Campbell. We don't know what he's going to be. Everything with the Colts now is completely up in the air. If we can't solve the Jonathan Taylor issue and he's the workhorse of that offense, I don't know what we can make out of any of the other pieces. And Mike Evans, he's an alpha wide receiver, but Dan alluded to it before and you guys were all talking about it. Tom Brady hasn't looked great. That offense hasn't looked great. The O-line hasn't looked great. So as talented as he is, he's not producing like he has in the past. So I wouldn't do it.
With your Steelers receivers, just sit tight because after the bye that they've had, they've got a pretty nice schedule coming up. You're looking at the Ravens twice, which is friendly for receivers, Carolina and the Raiders in the playoffs with Baltimore as well. They also have the Falcons, the Colts, which could be anything, and the Bengals with the Saints. So they have enough games in there if Kenny Pickett can adjust. And he hasn't looked that bad. He's been okay. And obviously without Claypool, there's a little bit more, maybe a bit more attention to Johnson. I don't think it's that bad for the Steelers receivers like Pickens, like Frymouth, like Johnson over the next 6 or 7 weeks. You just might have to sit tight and see it happen. But if this is redraft, obviously you always want the best piece, and I understand that too. But to think like Juju, he looked all right last night. Like he'll still pop up if Mahomes is going to go for 400 yards. Juju's probably going to go 7 for 80, and that's 15 points in PPR, and you'll take that to the bank. And if Deontay Johnson and the Steelers can kind of steady the ship a little bit, obviously no one wants to see a quarterback change after 3 or 4 weeks, but it happened. It is what it is. After the bye, they've got a nice run in. Not the end of the world if you have Johnson and Juju. It's not the end of the world if you hold on to those two. If you want Evans, I have no problem with wanting to get the best player out of this. Either way, I hate lateral moves where it's like the same position for the same position. It's like, what are we doing here? For me, it's just not.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Like, let's get some more on this.
That was a little bit of like Australian and New York mixed together. It's like, what are we doing?
That's Dan, though, right?
Perfect.
Forget about it. There we go.
Hey, forget
about it. This does involve a Steelers player. So what do you think about this trade?
I think it hinges on Paris Campbell. I would wait to see who's going to be the quarterback for the Colts. If you could wait till this week and see what Saturday announces. If it remains Ellinger, then I definitely would not do the trade. I would keep Deontay and Juju. But if you're getting a reliable quarterback, and the higher ceiling, I think, is Mike Evans and Paris Campbell. If the Colts are putting in, like, say, Foles or Matt Ryan's coming back, Ellinger, you're not going to get anything. Juju pops up once in a while, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in that Kansas City offense, and especially now since Tony's there. Deontay Johnson is good, but Pickett has eyes for Pickens, and Pickens is going to be his first choice the rest of the season out. So I would, if you can wait to see who the quarterback in Indy is going to be, I would do that before
So
I make
looking
that
at
decision.
points per game, like full PPR, Mike Evans has 16.4, Juju down at 13.3. And then the gap between Deontay and Campbell is not that high so far this season. 10.6 points per game for Deontay, 9.1 for Campbell. So if you were to add that together, you would say you're getting more points per game on the Mike Evans, Paris Campbell side. But does Deontay improve now that Claypool won't be drawing targets away or touches? Does it just increase the volume for all three of Pickens, Deontay, and Freiermuth as just being a win for all three of them? Not any one of them is going to take all of Claypool's targets, but the three combined will just get more.
No, I think Freiermuth and Pickens are the winners, clear winners. Freiermuth was good regardless of who was under center. I mean, Freiermuth got his regardless. It was Deontay, and that was actually suffering, but I don't think it was at Claypool's expense. I mean, Claypool wasn't getting that much of a target share that it hurt Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson's target share was pretty close to what he was getting last year. So, like I said, I just wait to see. Yeah, he's just. But Evans too. Like, I agree with Gator. Evans was dropped, like, he's dropping crazy passes, like passes that are hitting him in the hands. He's just dropping them. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll look up his catch rate later because I do kind of think, I don't know that his catch rate has ever been spectacular through his career anyway.
A lot of those were aimed at the dirt monster, though. A lot of those passes.
But he used to catch those, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, both ways. Brady, some of what Brady's been giving him has been pretty.
So yeah, I think
Gladys, so finally shooting on Tom Brady, and you're sticking up for him,
dude. He's going through a divorce. He's emotionally stunted. Leave him alone.
We're giving him one.
Yeah, this.
All right,
we'll talk about the drop rates. So his catch rate right now for Mike Evans is 62.9%. That's higher than his career average. Not the best he's ever had. It's funny. His three best seasons have all been with Tom Brady. 64.2, 64.9, 62.9. These are his three best catch rate seasons. So
perception's reality, right? Like, they just look bad, so we just believe he's doing bad, right? That's just it.
I think he always gets tough targets too, right? Like you can he's great contested catch. Just throw it up the 50-50 balls. You know, for him it's not 50-50, but it's also not 75% either, as he's shown. So this has been Mike Evans' career. So this is nothing new. The one reason I wouldn't make the trade is because Mike Evans still has his bye week coming up, and you're past that with Deontay and Juju, so you are losing a week. So I think we're all kind of on the side of don't do this. I'm okay buying the bye week if it gets me that mass upgrade into the sense of like Doc. Like, I'd be willing to ignore that if it was a clear yes, I have to get this deal done, and the sacrifice to gain all that value is to eat a bye week. Okay, but that's not really what's happening here. This seems pretty lateral. So I think we're going to say no pretty across the board. So, hey, we agreed. That's great. I guess we got a half hour before the game. So, Doc, we could do rapid fire injuries just on the Packers. So yeah, let's kick it off. There's tons of Packers injuries to talk about. The big one being Romeo Doubs, I would imagine. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's tackle those. So Aaron Jones, ankle injury. Stop me if you heard this before. X-rays are negative. Could play this week. Yeah, I'm still dubious about that until I see what he does in practice, if he's even able to practice. So that one's still up in the air, but
we're thinking low ankle sprain because
they sounds
said
like
high ankle for Doubs, but not for Jones. So does that kind of?
So that's what we're making an assumption. So the thing is that if it comes out in a couple days that it's a high ankle sprain, then we kind of know the story. If not, then it could be a low ankle sprain and he could play, but he also could not. I mean, Chuba Hubbard had a low ankle sprain and allegedly he was going to be able to get back into the game when he injured it. That was week 7. It's been week 9. He still hasn't played. So, that's totally subjective. Obviously, AJ Dillon would be the major beneficiary for any games missed, but Kylan Hill is also a potential contributor here as well. Because I don't know if AJ Dillon's going to be the guy who just carries the entire load if Aaron Jones misses. Romeo Doubs is a little bit more serious of an injury, so we know it's a high ankle sprain at this point. We know the deal. We've talked about high ankle sprains plenty. 4 to 6 weeks. That puts him back around playoff time, but there's no guarantee that he comes back at full strength. The question becomes, if you're an 8-0 team, 7-1 team, 6-2, like, can you, stomach a risk reward play like that and maybe try to buy low? If not, and you need the spot, then I think it's okay to move on from him. Just because you got to get to the playoffs before you can worry about it in redraft. So, Kyle, I'll kick this to you. Somebody's going to have to step up there potentially, because Christian Watson is getting evaluated for a concussion. If that's positive, then
that's
my
2
bet
in
is
2 weeks for him.
Yeah, my bet is he misses week 10 just based on the history that he's had, and the league has kind of treated these post to a concussion gate. If it's negative, then he's got a shot to play. But if he doesn't, then you got Sammy Watkins, you got Amari Rodgers, you got Samari Toure, or Toure. How do you say it?
Toure, I believe.
Toure.
Kawan Baker.
Touche, Toure.
Well, and then
so none of these
Juwan
guys have really
Winfrey
shown
as
much,
well.
but somebody's got to step up and help out Alan Lazard, right? Especially if Aaron Jones isn't going to be there to catch passes potentially. So did any of those guys excite you at all?
I would say I think it's Toure, to be honest. Like, he was a 7th round pick, and he hasn't really been getting many opportunities. He's kind of been the last guy on the field, but he's come up and made some good plays. Sammy Watkins looks like he's cooked completely. So I think it's Toure. I think if anyone steps up, it's the young rookie. Again, I think Juwan Winfrey, Rodgers likes him. They've held him around practice squad, keep calling him up. When he was forced to play earlier in the season, he didn't really do much. He had a couple of bad drops, but I kind of think he might get a shot too. I like your call of Kylan Hill, but yeah, Samori Toure might be the best Packer to pick up.
They lost players last year. Josiah DeGuara was a guy that kind of turned up out of
True.
nowhere. And I understand that Robert Tonyan's healthy and getting work done, but DeGuara, look, he could be deployed in that regard as well.
He was getting targets this week.
He was.
Too. So, yeah, that's a good call, Dan. Yeah, maybe we'll use more 2 tight end sets as a result of not having the receivers, and maybe even 3 tight end sets. They've done that in the past too. So
I feel like we spent a lot of time on teams that are like 2 and 7.
Hey, well, watch your mouth. All right. Well, if you want to go to a team that's better, one thing that we probably should touch on before we rapid fire is Josh Allen and his elbow injury. So still undergoing tests there. Somebody mentioned this in the Discord specifically. So they're worried about the ulnar collateral ligament in the elbow, which is in the inner part of the elbow right here. And it's the one that's most commonly associated with pitchers, baseball pitchers, and Tommy John surgery or ligament replacement surgery when that's completely torn. So he's still undergoing tests. And anytime you have a throwing athlete and they injure their elbow, it's common to do an evaluation to see if the ulnar collateral ligament is injured, to see they're also looking for nerve injury. So apparently he had some, numbness, tingling, or, abnormal sensations in his fingers. So this isn't as scary as it would be if he was a pitcher. But for now, all we can really do is kind of hold our collective breath and hope that the imaging doesn't show something terrible like a completely torn ulnar collateral ligament. The good news is that if he has a partially torn ligament, I think he might actually be able to play through it. So, there is some hope there. And for the record, Case Keenum is the backup. He hasn't been a starter for a few years, but he is a veteran. He does have experience. So I don't think he would completely kill the offense if he took over.
Who do they play this? Who do they play this week?
Who do they play this week?
Yeah, it's a Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs revenge game against the Vikings.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sorted out the Minnesota Miracle, right?
That's yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that's scary. It's kind of being a little underplayed. I'm surprised that more people haven't kind of latched onto this. Maybe people are just all kind of like,
they're hoping it's nothing. So we're just like, we're not even going to think about it, talk about it, and it won't exist.
If we talk about it, it'll make it real and make it tangible. So it's
every
never
time
good.
we mention the word, the tear gets that piece of paper gets a little more ripped.
The piece of paper
check
is UCL is getting bigger. Definitely, a concern. So we just have to wait and see what the MRI shows. And if he gets cleared, great. He'll probably be limited coming up to it. But again, even if there's a partial tear, I think he'll be able to play through it. Case Keenum, not a horrible, insurance play in case something does happen and he misses some time, which is certainly possible. So my question to you guys is, do you want to save the Monday night guys for last, and then we can do that to lead into the game? Or do you want me to just start at the top with them and run through them with everybody else?
Well, I'm looking at, I think let's just run through everyone else and we'll end with the Monday night guys. So,
okay.
Do you want me to feed you names, Doc, and you go, or do you got your list you want to be?
No, I got a list. If I miss anybody, then let me know.
Sure.
And
my
hope is that I can help demystify some of the injuries that happen around the league, just like I demystified this Rubik's Cube right here while we were doing the show. Anyway, so let's revisit Carson Wentz. So he had surgery on his broken finger. He missed weeks 7 through 9, estimated return weeks 11, 12. Here's something interesting. The compensation pick that they gave up for him becomes a third rounder if he misses 5 games plus. So you have to figure that's going to play in here somewhere and probably keep him out a little bit longer. Plus Heineke's played pretty well, and he's 2-1 in the last 3 games. So I'm opting that he's probably going to be out on the longer side of the 4 to 5 week timetable, and then we'll see from there. Matt Ryan still has that partial tear in his shoulder. We don't know what's happening with the Colts. Is he going to get his job back? Is he even physically able to get his job back? Not really sure. So a lot of question marks there. Russell Wilson with his hamstring, allegedly a partially torn hamstring injury. He missed week 7. He played in week 8. The thing with him is I think he's going to be able to play, but we have to get this out of our minds that he's a mobile quarterback because he's only been running a little bit previous to his injury. And I think this is definitely going to hamper him going forward. So any plays in production that you're going to get from him is going to be with his arm, and just kind of forget about the fact that he used to be a running quarterback, and any value with his legs, I think, is essentially gone.
He won't be a QB1. QB2 is how you have to think of him.
He's not one of those, Konami code quarterbacks anymore. Like, that's not his game. Aaron Jones, we talked about. Craig Reynolds kind of showed up with a rib injury, got forced out of the week 9 game for Detroit. Again, this could be a break or a cartilage injury. He wasn't really on the fantasy radar anyway, but if he misses time, our old friend Justin Jackson gets bumped up on the depth chart, and he's a consideration for a deep league stash if they decide to ice DeAndre Swift and or Jamal Williams gets hurt. We've seen him flash in the past, so somebody to keep an eye on or maybe grab if you have deep benches. He probably led a lot of teams to fantasy championships last year when he was with the Chargers, and Austin Eckler got COVID. He came in for a week or 2 and just had monster games and then went back to obscurity. So that could happen again. Ezekiel Elliott, we talked about a little bit. Grade 2 MCL injury and a thigh bruise, so partial tear of his knee ligament. He missed week 8. He's got a week 9 bye, and he's hoping to get back for week 10. No guarantees there. So even if he does play, expect Tony Pollard to carry more than half of the load for the Cowboys. Chuba Hubbard, we talked about low ankle sprain, but still caused him to miss weeks 8 and 9. And he was limited going into the week 9 game on Wednesday, Thursday. He missed Friday's practice, ended up missing the game. Just watch the practice reports. Donta Foreman didn't look great, and Chuba Hubbard could still have some value whenever he gets back out there. Romeo Doubs, we talked about with his high ankle sprain. We know the story there. Christian Watson, potentially a concussion. DK Metcalf, guy's a machine. I definitely blew that one. He looks just fine. So, patellar tendon, schmeteller tendon, like he looks
probably
great.
Just ripped it out. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah, he's
I got
whatever.
I don't need joints.
He's got 3 more of them. So whatever. Mike Williams with his high ankle sprain. So he had a bye in week 8, but expect multiple additional weeks out. I'm thinking like week 12 might be a reasonable guesstimate. He could certainly miss more time, and the sooner he comes back, the harder it's going to be to trust that he's fully healed. So Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter continue to be the beneficiaries until he's back. Russell Gage with his hamstring. He's missed 2 weeks up to this point. Even if he does come back, I think Julio Jones has passed him on the depth chart. Exactly. Corey Davis, MCL sprain, missed a couple of weeks. Probably now they got a bye week. So, looking at week 11 as a potential to come back. I think he can make that. Nico Collins, injured in week 7, missed weeks 8 and 9. Still, unclear as to when he's going to be coming back, but I got to see him practice before I can even consider him for week 10. David Njoku, high ankle sprain, which they, again, initially termed as not serious. But they said that he's been out for 2 weeks and he plans on playing in week 10. I'm not optimistic that he is going to play, but even if he does, Expecting to be limited. This could be one of those deals where he goes out there as a decoy and just kind of runs in a straight line and tries to draw coverage and isn't really going to be effective. Dan's buddy, Daniel Bellinger, broken eye socket, needed surgery, 3 to 6 week absence. So looking like week 12 or 13, most likely return. My only concern with him is not the surgery, but is his eyesight going to be affected when he comes back? If not, great. If so, there's still some risk there. So even when he does come back, it could still be an issue. So that's a problem. And then Dalton Schultz.
Sorry, Doc, before going anywhere else, Dan, do you think he could get shut down for the season?
Yeah. Look, they come off their bye this week, and then they'd have to win 1 or 2 to kind of want him to get on. And I've said this every week. The Giants' schedule running it is pretty soft. So there are a couple wins from the playoffs. For me, the way the NFC is shaping out, I don't think they're too far away from it, which is kind of crazy to think. So I don't think they'll be in any rush to bring him back sooner than later. I think for fantasy, I don't think it was that big of a – I don't think it's that big of a loss unless –
Yeah, well, tight end was so bad. I mean,
it is.
Listen,
unfortunately, the injuries aren't helping either, right?
Some of the tight ends that finished in the top 12 this week are atrocious. So I understand. Yeah. Look, come playoff time, fantasy playoff time, if he's about, he might be a streamer if you've lost a player or two. If he's about, but who knows with the Giants at this
top
point.
12 in any week, like going into the week ranking wise, like it'll be tough.
Where's the hubris of the arrogant Giants fan that we saw a couple of weeks ago? It's not like they lost; they had a bye week. They're 6-2. Like he's like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Yeah.
If anything, anyway. You look at the way that the NFC teams kind of faltered this week. It wasn't a bad week for the Giants. The Rams lost again. The Bucks kind of aren't doing their thing. Look. If the Saints win tonight, they muddy up the South even more. They go to 4-5 and they tie the Bucks and the Falcons. So it's not like either of them are going to kind of chase them. And the Packers keep losing and they keep falling away. So you're looking at like the playoff race in the NFC. It's like San Fran, Dallas, and New York really for those wild card spots, and that's it. And even San Fran are 4-5 or 5-4.
I think they're 4-4.
Right there with
4-4. There you go. So they're not even. They're still 2 games behind the Giants. So, whatever Bellinger can do when he comes back, it's gravy, but you're really banking on like a lot of tight ends to turn to mush for him to be relevant.
That could always happen.
The guys like Schultz and Waller being out. So, Doc, what do we know about those two?
Yeah, so Schultz, he had his issue with his PCL. He came back. He had 7 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards, and the bye week to heal. So we talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm ready to be hurt again. Like in week 10, like if you got him, fire him up. You probably don't have a better option. So might as well get him out there. And if he gets injured again, he gets injured again. But it looks like he's back for whatever that's worth. And then Darren Waller. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's been kind of an up and down season so far for him and more down than up. I don't think they shut him down, at least not in the immediate offing. But, if a couple more losses happen, then it's a possibility. But right now, 2-6, I know it's not great. But I believe last year the Raiders were 3-6, and they ended up going on this insane run and making the playoffs. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but what I am saying is,
to be honest,
stranger things have happened. Somebody tweeted something I thought was hilarious. They said that both the Raiders and the Pats would be better if Josh McDaniels stayed.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I 100% agree. But I would have called that
you see this
too.
You watching the same thing?
I'm watching you guys. I'm trying to pay attention to Doc.
I hate Adam Schefter. Oh my God.
He's
doing
Kirk Cousins. He's ripped his shirt off.
Did you see the film of Kirk Cousins on the plane with the chains?
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Adam Schefter's doing that on the field. It's disgusting.
Yeah, we don't like that.
No, we don't.
We don't like
that. Do not like that. My eyes
anyway, Doc,
will never not.
Yeah, so
one more tight end, actually.
Who do you got?
Evan Ingram.
Oh, Evan Ingram with his back injury. Looks like it's not much. Just watch practice reports. I'm not really too concerned about anything, but if he's not able to practice, then that's concerning. If he's able to get out there in some limited fashion, I'm not too worried about it. And then we'll finish off with the Packers. A couple of defensive players. So Gary for Green Bay, ACL tear, done. And then Eric Stokes in a walking boot, concerned for a high ankle sprain, maybe more. So we just have to see there. And see.
Doc, what's wrong with Bakhtiari? is he comes and he goes. He plays like 2 snaps and then he goes out again. Is it concussion stuff or is he hurt like ligament?
This is
stuff?
all still from that 2020 ACL tear. Like it seems like he didn't recover properly, so he needed a second surgery, and it seems like he just deals with a lot of like fluid in his knees, so a lot of inflammation. It's just something that's probably going to deal with the rest of his career, honestly. So it seems like they've been trying to just
now,
unlike most offensive linemen who play 100% of the snaps, they're not doing that with him. They'll play him for a series, bring Nijman in. The problem is recently they've had so many other injuries, they haven't been able to do that because Nijman's had to play every snap too. So I think now by necessity, he's going to be out there most of the snaps.
So it's an old injury though. It's not a new one.
Yeah, no, this all stems from that 2020 ACL tear.
Okay.
Go ahead. For the IDP players out there, Xavier McKinney on the bye week happened to break his hand in an ATV accident.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, for those that don't know, Landon Collins signed with the Giants a few weeks back, and he's been working his way in. And obviously, McKinney's been playing a little bit more in the box. That's what Collins does. So for those that play IDP, if you're looking for a starting safety that can swing into linebacker, that's a guy you can look at. Divine Diablo also handed a forearm. Blake Martinez, another former Giant, playing with Patrick Graham again. Kyle obviously knows from Green Bay Martinez. Martinez and Graham at the Giants. Obviously, it's a thing as well. As soon as Diablo went down, Martinez slotted right in, and I think he had like 11 tackles or something. So
that's what he does. He's a tackle machine. He's awful in coverage. So we love him for IDP because we
love him for IDP because he's gonna get you double-digit tackles every week. So for those that play IDP, Blake Martinez and Landon Collins, a few Giants guys or former Giants guys, it's just something else to look at. There we go.
So we got some trades here. Doc, were there any other injuries other than the Monday night players?
Yeah, just the Monday night stuff.
All right, so let's try and quickly touch on these trades. Yeah. Trade DK Metcalf and Higbee for D-Hop. And then the other one is Jacoby Myers and Waller. Jacoby Myers and Darren Waller for Pitts and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Or Pitts.
I mean,
I
think this one's
Jacoby
a smash.
and Waller / Pitts for Amon-Ra.
Oh, okay.
And then
that makes way more sense.
Who is he trading?
He wants to get Amon-Ra. He'd have to give up Jacoby and a tight end. So either Waller or Pitts.
Oh.
Considering Waller's hurt, I think Jacoby and Waller almost seems like it's like just Jacoby for Amon-Ra because you're not.
I could sign off on that.
Yeah,
I think that's an obvious trade. Jacoby and Waller for Amon-Ra. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
And then go get Foster Moreau. Go get him.
Exactly.
Why though? Just start Pitts. If he's got Pitts on if they got Pitts on their team.
I just start Pitts. No, he's just
okay. Well, then Pitts and I think Pitts and Jacoby is too much for Amon-Ra. I would change it to Pitts and Jacoby. Can you get another piece added? Amon-Ra and someone else. That's where I'd want the other tight end that I can play with waiting for Waller.
Jacoby and Waller for Amon-Ra.
Try that. Jacoby and Waller for Amon-Ra. If they can get that done, get that done. I'm not crazy about this one. I mean,
no.
Hopkins has been playing. He's scored as a top 5 wide receiver since he's been back, and Metcalf is kind of like borderline. I mean, he's in the top 20, but he's not really wide receiver 1 material. So Higbee is kind of disappointed. I'd actually be okay with doing this. I don't know, Dan. Go ahead.
My favorite prop of the week every week is Tyler Higbee under. For some reason, they draw him at the line at like 45 yards every week, and he gets you 7. So, like, it's the easiest one you'll make. He is fucking trash. Higbee is cooked.
But DK isn't.
No, I'm just saying, like it's DK for.
It's almost a 1-for-1. Dan saying, like,
basically, who do you like? Unless you're completely. Even if you are, like, who do you like better, DK or D-Hop?
If you're the guy that's getting D-Hop and Higbee, what are you gonna have to like find a way to cut Higbee? The guy's just garbage, and the Rams aren't much better. But this guy every week is given the 45 to 48 yard, and it's the funniest thing. You watch like Underdog.com going for 2 GF2 promo 100% matching deposit up to $100. You'll see every week hits like Wednesday he's at like 48.5, and hits Friday he's like 41.5 because everyone's like, you gotta be kidding. And then
people
it hits like
hammering that under.
They're hammering the under because it hits Sunday and he's like 39.5 because you know what? He doesn't do anything. The Rams don't do anything. They don't run the ball. They don't throw the ball. They don't do much.
It's been a while. Yeah.
So
the Rams.
I want to hear: is anyone opposed to this? Because I think the idea of getting I think
DK
Hopkins
for
is an
D-Hop?
upgrade over Metcalf. I'd do it. I'd do this trade.
I mean,
You're
looking
I'm
at-
not
let's-
I'm not
let's-
mad at you for that.
let's
If
look at
if
it-
you like D-Hop better than that, whichever one of those receivers you like better, then that's the way you should go. Like that's what it comes down to. So if you like D-Hop better, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, in
Quick-
Dynasty, I could see why this. I wouldn't want to do this in Dynasty, but assuming this is redraft, I think Hopkins is a significant upgrade over Metcalf right now.
Bingo.
He's drawing targets, he's producing. He, like I said, he's been top 5 wide receiver points per game. The only people outscoring him are Diggs, Cup, and Hill.
the only reason why
I
you're
put
looking
Hill
at,
and Diggs together to make Hills.
the only
Diggs.
reason why in redraft you're looking at DK Metcalf at this point is because the Seattle Seahawks are playoff contenders and they're playing through 17. I don't know what the hell the Arizona Cardinals are. They're trash. They're down there with the Rams. They're just hard to watch.
I
don't know
think
what-
Metcalf's going to play the whole season because of the suspension.
What-
I think he's mad at that. He's going to play till the end of week 17.
You mean
even if they
Hopkins?
still-
You mean Hopkins? I understand that, but at that point, at least you know that Seattle are going to be in meaningful games. The Cardinals in 3 weeks' time, they're hanging out with I don't know, Green Bay. That's who they're hanging out with in 3 weeks.
Well, I mean,
They're nowhere.
I think their records are both the same pretty much right now. They're both.
But that's what I'm
What time
saying.
does the game start, by the way?
8, yeah, we should. Well, Gator is kind
9
of trying to
minutes.
keep us on track, right? So
9
over under on
minutes.
Kamara total
9
yards
minutes.
tonight.
All right.
So again, we do our props every week. Maybe we should give the lines, then we'll talk about our standings and how we're doing elsewhere. But Dan, do you want to answer this because your prop involves Alvin Kamara? So maybe we'll just start right there.
My prop does involve Alvin Kamara. My prop this week would be Alvin Kamara. I took him earlier at, where are we? I was lucky.
It's 36.5.
I got him at
receiving
30.
yards.
Yeah. So remember, as always, we say this every week, shop your props around. Make sure you find it. Again, goingfor2.com, GF2, underdog.com, 100% matching deposit up to $100. Get on them earlier. I can't say this enough. Get on your props earlier because at this point, receiving yards, they've climbed from 36.5 tonight to 42. From this morning to now, it's climbed up 6 yards, and that's significant. So I took Kamara this morning at 36.5 receiving yards, and for me, that is over at the moment. He's at 109.5 rush yards. That's up from 101.5. That's
Total
significant.
yards. Total
Yeah.
yards.
Which is,
So total
which is
yards,
really
so-
weird because the player props are going up, but the score, the total score is going down.
They don't trust anything that Baltimore are doing. That's what. But like you look at it because obviously Bateman. The Mark Andrews news was official.
Right.
Around midday today? That was well after I gave you guys the underdog, the props that we all were.
I thought he was ruled out yesterday. I thought.
He was doubtful.
He was doubtful.
But like,
made
They
it
rolled him out
official.
today.
once it's all confirmed.
Right.
Also, you're looking at Gus Edwards today. He wasn't ruled out till a few hours ago. Also, so a lot on the Baltimore side might have significantly impacted that. But for
Okay.
what it's worth, you're looking at Kamara. If you were telling me at 101.5 earlier today, I'd say probably comfortably the way this is going, 109.5. Sure, he did it last week, right? He went absolutely bananas. He had 62 and 96. the week
What
before,
did his rush
49
yards
West.
go up to now? Because I kind of like that at
His
16.5. I
rush
didn't think that was
yards-
awful.
His rush yards at this point is at 65.5.
Okay.
So it's come up a little bit, but
Yeah,
the receiving
and
yards, it's
Landry
come
out
up.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't love them as much right now. You should have, if you wanted to bet on them, you should have bet on them earlier, basically is what we're saying. So what are the props that can be bet on right now that we do like? So Dan's taking the receiving yards for Kamara higher, and even 42.5 is still not outrageous.
No.
Who wants to go next?
Doc.
Well,
Your favorite prop. You've done this
I
prop
do.
for different
Again,
quarterbacks throughout.
I've seen the numbers that you've given, and I'm so proud of you guys taking the lowest number possible on everything. I'm so happy. I looked at it and I went, wow.
Yeah, Doc took a prop for a half, not even one.
I'm going with continuing to bet against Mr. Monday Night, Andy Dalton. And I'm going higher on 0.5 interceptions.
So yeah, thinking Andy Dalton will throw a pick. He did have the 3 picks the last time they were in prime time, so that probably smart for. I guess the next lowest is technically mine at 7.5. So I'm taking Josh Oliver receiving yards higher than 7.5. Just thinking.
I had to look that up to see.
Well, and he's caught
love
passes in 3 games this year, and 2 of them were like 2 receptions each, and he got 8 yards in one, 22 yards in another. And then the other game he was under where he caught passes, he only had 1 catch for 4 yards. So if he gets volume, two receptions should be enough to get this 7.5. to hit eight
I looked at
receiving
this
yards.
one. I was close on this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, whoa, 7.5.
That's got Will
Also
Disley
looked-
vibes all over it.
I also looked
Dan
at
is the
like
teacher.
yeah.
That's
I
funny.
also
That's
I
pretty
also
ironic,
looked at.
actually,
Let me
yeah.
tell you, I looked
Teaching
at
us about
Taysom Hill at 27.5. Rushing yards with Mark Ingram out was also another one. I went, ooh.
Well, it's funny. I
Maybe.
wore this shirt specifically because I call this my Taysom Hill shirt. I was looking for the Taysom Hill touchdown prop that wasn't there. So thanks, Underdog, for being smart there. But
vulture.
yeah, that's you can get the shirt on Viridian Global, just like all the other goingfor2.com gear, goingfor2.com as well. You can hit that from goingfor2.com/store or through Viridian Global's website. But Gladys,
what do you got?
Yes.
I like your prop as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too.
Lamar Jackson higher 9.5 rushing attempts.
Ooh, I like it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That seems really low to me.
Well, you look at
Especially
like
with Bateman out and Edwards out and Andrews out.
It's
you
smart.
look at Kenyon Drake's. This is the tell, right? Kenyon Drake's rush attempts are like at 11. That's up from 10. From 10.5 to 11.5. So like Kenyon Drake isn't getting much more than 10 or 11 rush attempts anyway, with or without Edwards or whoever's around him. So when you look at that, if like they have no receivers, right, or they got Duvernay maybe, right, and Demarcus Robinson, so you know they're going to run the ball, right? 9.5 for Jackson with Drake as their best option at 11.
Yeah.
Damn, like if they rush it 20 times and he goes 50-50, like he's in.
Gator likes Gladys's pick. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I liked it. I like that one a lot too.
I think we have a chance to have we gotten a week where we all four of us got the props right. The Chargers Broncos week.
That was a good week.
Yeah, it's the only week all four of us have done it. So let's try and repeat the process here. But yeah, going from the props to the game pick. So, I guess I was supposed to show this earlier. But Saints, Ravens at Saints, 46.5 over under. And then the Ravens are favored by 1 point. And I think all of us are going the lower. Gladys, I haven't seen your pick yet. Are you going higher or lower here than 46.5?
I went lower.
All right, across
But
the board.
I thought it was 47.5. No? Is that I got it after it dropped?
Yeah. They like to play silly little games with the lines where they get you to commit and then they change the line during the show.
I haven't touched it. I've got a full-time job.
I got a little game he likes to play.
So, 46.5. All four of us are going lower. I think that's the first time we've all been the same on higher or lower.
It's got to be.
No, Kansas City, Vegas, we all went higher. We all got that right. So the only time we've all gone the same, we did get it right. So that should be a good sign, I think. Good omen.
All right.
Now the interesting thing: Ravens or Saints? I know I'm going Ravens. So is Doc, and Doc mentioned my exact reason. Andy Dalton, prime time. The Saints are not going to win the game. I don't care about the injuries to the Ravens, but that's also my thinking. Both offenses are going to struggle, so that's also why I went lower. So I thought all that kind of made sense together to me, which means I'm going to get everything wrong.
Maybe, but like you said, all things being equal, go with the better quarterback. Lamar's the better quarterback. That's the only thing I had in play there. What are you guys taking?
Well, Dan went with the Saints as a 1 point underdog. So let's hear it, Dan.
I like the Saints as money line anyway. I think the Saints are going to outright win. So taking you at +1 was for me. It's like
it's almost at a pick 'em anyway. But yeah,
but I look at it. It's not like Dalton doesn't have rapport with Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, Alvin Kamara. He's got enough of a core to do that. If you want to throw a wild card in like Taysom Hill, he is going to cause them problems as well. Like I find that at some point the Ravens, like the bend don't break. It's sustainable for so long. You lose Bateman. You don't have Marquise Brown all year because he's off to Arizona. He doesn't play now anyway. You lose Andrews, and you're relying on Duvernay, Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, DeMarcus. Like, that's great that they can rally and win, and those games are going to be drawn out. But Dalton's done all right with the Saints. That's why he's kept Jameis Winston out. I get the primetime thing, I understand, but the Ravens are going to struggle to hold this in anyway. So, he's had a handful of multiple touchdown games in succession now, Andy Dalton. He's thrown for 300 yards in a couple games in his last few. He's done okay. And again, they're a win away from being at the top of the division with the Bucs and the Falcons, if you want to throw them in there, I guess, whatever. But I find that, at this point, at home, Monday night, prime time, I get it.
They got a good defense. It could certainly happen.
Quarterbacks aside, the best player on the field is who? Alvin Kamara, right? that's it. That, for me, that's why the prop went there. They're going to go to Kamara. They're going to go to him often, and that guy could go absolutely ham tonight. So I like the Saints at home. Obviously, you never rule out Lamar Jackson. I don't think anyone can do anything crazy like that. But at this point, I find the Saints at home against
valid. I definitely struggle with it.
Gladys, it's a depleted Baltimore team, and I just look at that and go.
Before we kick
I have
off,
the Saints. Because,
Saints too. Okay, all right.
Right. So everyone went lower, but we're split on the actual picks.
All right, give them the standard style.
Yeah, it's going to do. Now that we've hit 8:50 and everything's locked in, we don't have a choice. Gators also going Baltimore the under. Standings-wise, it's actually getting interesting at both extremes. So currently Docs is still in the lead, but he's gotten 2 picks right over the last 3 weeks. So at 17-7-3, not quite as dominant as early season stretch. Dan's right behind at 15-9-3. So Dan slowly creeping in, only 2 correct picks behind Doc now. So suddenly that gap is not as extreme as it was when Doc started the season. What was it? 8-0-1. The first 3 weeks he was on fire. Gladys and I are pretty close too. I'm at 11-13-3. Gladys is at 9-15-3. I have not got a correct pick right in 3 weeks. We pushed the higher lower on Bengals Browns. They got exactly what the spread was, so we all tied there. But I have not gotten a correct pick any of the last 3 weeks. So now I really need some magic to help me here. I felt a little more confident in these props this week than I have the last. It's been 2 weeks in a row I haven't gotten any right.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's what. So not great.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, one thing that was bad for us last week, all of us got our props wrong last week.
We got smashed last week. I didn't want to bring it up, but
okay. Well, I brought it up. At least you all picked the Browns. I did not, so you all got at least 1 point correct. But yeah, that was.
I
did pick the Browns.
Yeah, you all picked the Browns except me. I was being Jamar Chase. It's no big deal. The Bengals are clearly better. No, that was clearly the wrong pick.
Miles Garrett on Halloween, baby.
Those interdivision games are tough, man.
Miles Garrett, Chase, and Joe Burrow was a sight I will never unsee.
Miles Garrett on Halloween.
So before we head out, I want to give updates on all the Monday night guys that we know are out, and just kind of talk about them going forward real quick. Sure. So Gus Edwards with the hamstring, we know he's out. I think they're just being cautious because they got the bye week next week. So there's a chance, even maybe a good chance, that he could be back in week 11. And then, we'll see what happens from there. J.K. Dobbins, he had his knee scope. And, the question is, what's the diagnosis? I'm wondering if this is something called arthrofibrosis, which is scar tissue that forms around the ACL graft and keeps the knee from flexing and extending.
I think that's what Bakhtiari has. I think that's what he's been dealing with since his surgery.
It's scar tissue that forms around the graft and you lose flexibility in the knee. Probably a month away from coming back. So thinking around week 13, but he should be productive when he does come back. Recurrence for these things is really low. And I think it'll help him gain his flexibility back, and it should be just in time for the playoffs. Rashad Bateman, stop me if we've heard this one before. Foot sprain, and we're worried about it. Want to make sure it's not a Liz Frank. Well, what did it turn out to be? A Liz Frank. So that was always on the table dating back to his initial injury in week 4. So now he's out for the rest of the year. But for those of you in dynasty leagues and things like that, same deal as ETN. If you believed in him before, believe in him now. Greater than 90% recovery rate for these. So this is a buy low opportunity, especially if people are soured on him after 2 years of not really producing. Mark Andrews with his shoulder, he missed practice all week. They got the bye next week. The concern is, could this be another DeAndre Swift situation? So even if he does come back, re-injury is still possible. I think those that invested in Isaiah Likely insurance, it's going to be money well spent, even just for peace of mind going forward down the stretch and into the playoffs. Michael Thomas, this one, I think it illustrates a good point. He dislocated his second toe, and he has probable ligament damage there. So that's the reason that he's out. So even though it's not a major injury, which they said it's not a major injury, even a minor injury can undo a player's production if it's in the wrong spot. And if you have a dislocated toe and you're a wide receiver that has to cut and move and have all these, different movements and things like that, a toe injury is really going to hamper you. So, I'm still, I think with him, the blood's running in the streets. I don't think anybody's going to be in on him next year. I would still, I think the ceiling is still there. I would still buy low on him. And if you end up with empty pockets, the acquisition cost is going to be really, really low.
Yeah, imagine buying him after the 2019 season, right? Like you're not paying that price, even close to that price. So
right. So, he's still got the potential to be great. He probably will move on from the Saints. We don't know what it's going to look like, but that's where it's at. And then Jarvis Landry, like he's been out for a while with this ankle. Until we see him get back and do something, I think you have to kind of assume that he's going to be out until
clearly a high ankle sprain, right?
Get on.
Because
I think at this point, I think at this point he's missed like 5 weeks or something like that. Yeah, this will be week 5 that he missed. So that does go along with a high ankle sprain, and it could be worse. Like, you got to see him get back in practice and be able to move around before we can even consider that he's going to be back and playing.
Doc, where is that from? Blood running in the streets. What is that
from? It's something my dad used to say.
No, isn't it? Okay.
Well,
I mean, maybe from something,
like just like
maybe from
stock
something else,
right? The blood's running the streets, meaning it's actually pretty gruesome, right? Like, all these stocks failed, so all these stockbrokers they took the plunge, and that's the time to buy when everything's complete chaos.
Buy when the blood is running in the streets is what he's
talking about. Drunk driving, suicide.
Yeah. We're very more, but it's the post Halloween episode. So we're very.
Guys been in the mall.
I'm really disappointed you guys didn't show up in costume last week, by the way. If I was on the show,
it's funny. I suggested it. I was gonna wear like a referee.
I would have been in
shirt
on that.
And pretend to be a referee. I was gonna like throw flags everywhere, but like Dan and Glass like, nah, they kiboshed that. So I'm here with my touchdown vulture shirt because it's the Taysom Hill week. And I said something a couple weeks ago. The only teams we get twice are the Broncos and Patriots. That's actually wrong. We do get the Saints twice. So I will bring back the touchdown vulture shirt in a few weeks when we have the Saints again.
Yay.
Assuming Taysom Hill is still active. If Taysom Hill gets hurt, I can't wear it because it's the Taysom Hill shirt.
Okay.
And that's likely anytime touchdown over under. I was thinking he was talking about Kamara, like he'll likely get the anytime touchdown. Oh my god! And then so I was going to say that the Taysom Hill might mess it up for Kamara, and that might be the reason he doesn't get it, since he's the touchdown vulture. But yeah, I think it's a little late for now. But the likely anytime touchdown probably good, right? No, Dan doesn't like it. Josh Oliver will vulture him and get those 8 yards.
Dan doesn't like it, so
if I get close, it's Lamar or Drake. I just don't. Yeah, sure. Anytime touchdown, sure. Why not? But
the Saints are really good against tight end too, though.
Yeah, they don't have much else going for them.
By the way, I don't know if we fully got to just everyone's answer on this trade. I was a yes to make this trade to upgrade to Hopkins. What's everyone's final answer on this one? Because I think we were all pretty much in favor of Myers and Waller to get Amon-Ra. I think that we're all in favor of.
I'm cutting Tyler Higbee. I'm adding Foster Moreau, and I am keeping DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I'm not making that trade.
My answer was basically whichever wide receiver you like better, that's the way you go. That's personal preference. So it's like I don't have a strong feeling either way. I like them both, but whichever one you like, that's the one that's the side of the trade you go for. Don't worry about the Higbee part of it.
And I guess to me it was if I didn't think Hopkins was a significant upgrade over Metcalf, I wouldn't do it because they're the same tier, but I really do see it as Hopkins is a tier up on Metcalf right now.
These are like killing my head. All right, I have to go.
Yeah,
my dog needs to go to the bathroom.
That's fair, Gladys. So we'll head out. Check goingfor2.com or Discord/goingfor2.com for 700 strong Discord channel. There's so many great people in there. So many great channels, including Doc's injury channel. Some great things you can discuss any topic you want in the Discord. Also, Underdog. If you can't for tonight's game because it started, but for future games, join Underdog and use the promo code GF2. You can get a 100% deposit match. Up to $100, I think.
Yes.
I can't believe you guys are more impressed with the Rubik's Cube thing, by the way.
Underdog Rubik's Cube.
You guys are a tough room, man.
I'm from Western Sydney, my friend. That sort of stuff will get you killed.
Cubes in Australia?
Not anymore, they don't.
They don't. They killed them all.
No.
That's not a Rubik's Cube. No, that's a Rubik's Cube. It's like Crocodile Dundee.
Dundee, I got that one.
That's assault.
All right, before we assault your senses too much, we'll head out of here. On behalf of my great co-host, we've got Dr. James Freddy. We've got Discord Dam, the promo pimp himself, the B-League says, Gladys, and of course, I'm Senra Says. And this was the 2-point conversion Monday night pregame show. We'll be back next week for week 10. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.